уважаемые коллеги.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon. And I suggest we should be talking about input substitution in building fishing vessels. And as of today, we know that the construction of such vessels does faces some problems because of the sanctions, and the equipment is not being supplied, and we have delays for the building of the vessels in the framework of the first investment quotas mechanism. And I know that there will be a new bidding process for the future quotas, so we need to understand how we should be building those vessels and where we should take all the necessary equipment from. We understand that the state is rendering a lot of support measures, and I will elaborate on that in my report specifically. And there is a huge number of various units of equipments for fish production vessels and for general fishing vessels. So let's here at this session, which will include the owners of the manufacturing facilities, shipbuilding facilities, the producers, manufacturers of the equipment, we can work all together. So let's listen to the competences of each participants and their requirements towards the localization that are included in the second mechanism of quotas, and then we will be able to cooperate. And I'd like now to introduce our speakers: Andrei Gennadievich Mikhailevich, the head of the Federal Agency for Fisheries, and Mr. Alexei Nadershin, Director of the Civil Shipbuilding Department from United Shipbuilding Corporation, Mr. Sergei Kulikov, General Director from Russian Maritime Register of Shipping, Mr. Alexei Osintsev, President from Fishery Ship Owners Association, and Mr. Igor Zubarev, Senator of the Russian Federation. And Mr. Mikhnov has not arrived yet. And we will introduce the participants of the speech session. They will have, each of them will have 5 to 7 speeches. The colleagues will be talking about their competences and expertise. We tried to get together the manufacturers of general equipment, processing equipment, production equipment, all of these elements, and the spare parts as well. And we will be listening to those reports a little bit later. In general, I'd like to start our dialogue from the following questions to the speakers in the presidium. Andrei Gennadievich, tell us, please, which problems do you see in the implementation of the first investment quotas, and what will be the prospects for the second mechanism, and which measures are you already taken and are you planning to take in the future? Please answer this question. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm glad to welcome you here, this roundtable. And this topic, I think, is one of the most relevant matters, and we started back 5 years ago when we introduced the mechanism of quotas, and we thought at that time that all the vendors and manufacturers were ready, and we started this process, but it was very much more difficult to complete it. And at the plenary session we discussed that the package of the vessels amounts to 105 vessels, and there was a voluntary termination of agreements, and some agreements and contacts have been already signed. And as our minister has mentioned, our task is to complete the construction of those 105 vessels. And of course, colleagues understand that the time frame will be longer. Instead of 6 years, it will be 8 years. We hope, we express the hope that we will be able to achieve this goal maybe in 5 years. But we do face such problems as the redesign and the change of vendors. And there are 3 main areas we should be improving. The first one is shipbuilding itself, so that we have uninterrupted supplies on the domestic market or from friendly countries, and future guarantee and post-guarantee maintenance and support. And in terms of ship repairs, the same situation exists. And over the last decades, we have repaired a lot of vessels abroad with foreign spare parts, and now we have to introduce some changes. And colleagues have mentioned just yesterday that they will turn to China for it. And the third component, the third element, is also very important. They're processing coastal plants. And here, the situation is the following. We almost got all the plants together, so all the units of the equipment were brought from abroad, and now we have some potential on the domestic market, and we will try to develop it. And the investment program is not only about 105 vessels, because that was only for the first round, and the bidding for the production of crabs will be initiated quite soon. And first, we had specific requirements, but they have been reconsidered, and 2 out of the 4 of them will be re-examined and reconsidered. And the major part will still belong to the fishermen's vessels. And as for fish production vessels, it will go on, the bidding process will go on until December 9th. And of course, we introduced some novelties and innovations. We analyzed what we are still lacking on the part of investors, and some investors express concerns about the logistical problem that has to be tackled. So we actually included that as well, and we've faced certain challenges. The consultations are ongoing, but we have not received all the applications, though the Ministry of Trade and Industry has allocated funds for that. I will not comment on that because that is a matter of colleagues, but these are the challenges that we are currently facing, and we need to find the solutions. Thank you. Thank you, Andrei Gennadievich. Alexei Sagedjanovich, please comment on the measures that are being taken by the United Shipbuilding Corporation in order to complete the construction of vessels in the framework of the first quarter mechanism. And are you ready for the second round? Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to take part in such a necessary event and session. And on the part of United Shipbuilding Corporation, I can tell you the following. Unfortunately, we have faced certain challenges, and we have come to this point because of them. And conceptually, we can actually bring or distinguish 3 blocks of the information. The first element is when we lack the necessary documents that would help the builders to evaluate the cost and the time frame for the execution of the projects. Unfortunately, as a rule, our clients have brought us terms of reference and some drawings, and then we independently worked on them. And the basis for our work was foreign equipment, and it's not a secret that up to 90% for some vessels for food production comes from abroad. And as we are facing this situation with the sanctions now, and the COVID pandemic and all the limitations related to that, then the sanctions were imposed, and we have been facing the situation when imported equipment, foreign equipment, has not been supplied for the same price with the same time frame. And then it, of course, impacted the time frame of the contract execution. So what is the United Shipbuilding Association Corporation doing? Many customers are quite understanding in this regard, and the time frame has been longer, up to 8 years. And we are evaluating the situation where we stand, and for all orders, we conduct the necessary expertise in order to understand whether the labor intensive resources included in the initial indicators, is that in line with reality. We are holding negotiations with our customers, with giving our grounds, arguments about the possible time frame for those projects. And in this situation, we are completely open and honest and transparent, and it is nice to realize that we have embarked on a fruitful dialogue here. Of course, it's clear that the execution of this program, and we have a certain portfolio of 43 vessels, and 31 is now being under construction. 12 of them have been commissioned, and the plan is to execute the remaining projects up to 2027. And because of this story, in the framework of the incident of number 42, you all know about that, and the assessment of the price, and there is a deficit of the funds that are necessary for this purpose. So for a number of projects, we have been negotiating with designers in order to redesign and reprofile, to substitute foreign equipment for the domestic one, or the equipment from friendly countries, and also the work which is related to the redesign, and we will be completing that quite soon, and hopefully we will end it up in 2024, and manufacturing then will go back to the normal order.
Another thing that we are facing is the qualification of personnel. Unfortunately, we didn't have an experience of shipbuilding for quite a long time, and we lost the qualification. It refers to both the design bureaus and the shipyards. Not all the shipyards are ready now to do the building. We understand that. That's why we have started some of the activities, and the deliverables that we received as a result of implementation of stage 1 should be preserved. We should not lose them. That's why we count on participation in stage 2 of this project. The stage 2 of the investment quotas allocation. I do confirm that we have quite an aggressive platform. I cannot say that the schedule is tight, but at least it is quite dynamic. We can start construction of some of the shipping vessels in 2024 in Khabarovsk, for example. There are provisions made to involve Admiralty shipyards and Wimpel starting from 2024, 26. And we are still working on the program. I think that's what it is. Bullet points. If there are any questions, I can answer them. And we will give an opportunity to have the talk to all the panelists, and then we will have Q&A. Sergey, are there any changes, amendments in the register regarding the certification of the shipborne assets for the construction of the vessels? Yes, of course, there are some changes and amendments to the register, because we are all in the same boat. But I would like to divide the question into two parts. One, it is the regulation of the register, and another, the hardware. And as far as the regulations are concerned, the fishing vessels cannot apply some of the provisions of the conventions. That's why the register has simplified some of the requirements for designing and engineering shipping vessels, and I would like to thank the fishermen themselves. At the Neva Expo, they approached me and they made a proposal regarding the changes to the regulations. Those changes will be taken into account if it does not contradict to the established international practice. And so about the assets, about the hardware. We are aware that when building and repairing the ships, each stakeholder is trying to get hold of the equipment on their own. They are left to their own devices, and a year and a half we had a temporary approach to certification of the equipment, and it's still standing. And besides the standard scheme of supply of the equipment from the documents of the register, there is equipment with the documentation of the foreign manufacturers, or sometimes there is no supporting documentation at all, and the testing is done when the equipment is installed on board. There are cases when new ships are built, and it is not possible to supply some equipment. The second-hand equipment is being used. And such an option is possible. We do test it, of course, but the second-hand equipment might be installed on new ships when the customer agrees to that. And that kind of approach will still be applied because we do not see any improvement as far as the supplies are concerned. And besides, we know that there are offices in the friendly countries, China and Turkey, first of all, and there are colleagues who work over there. There are more than 50 persons working in the Chinese office. At the request of the shipyards, those offices, the personnel are making the selection of the equipment, and most of the personnel in the offices are Chinese who were born in China. They have their links with the manufacturers, and then it's up to the customer whether to get it or not. So that's the set of the services in the current situation. Thank you, colleagues. Alexei, a question for you. Could you sum up the phases of the implementation of the investment quotas, and what are the expectations from stage 2? Thank you, Dmitry, for the invitation to speak up at the session. Let me tell you about the association of the shipping companies. They are the customers for 39 ships, a lot of investments. These 39 ships are essentially 23 are large tonnage, the rest are mid-tonnage, crabbers, longliners, and 3 are canning factory ships. So the members of the association are planning to move in the same direction, and we are planning to take part in the other stage. I would like to thank the regulator, the Ministry of Industry and Trade, for them to take part in the discussions in evaluating, assessing the situations related to the localization. There is a draft decree to introduce changes into the Law 719, and this is one of the measures that will make it possible to use the equipment from friendly countries or alternative sources to complete the construction of the ships at stage 1 and the prospective stage 2. Today, there were benchmarks of the construction of the ships discussed at the plenary session, and I would like to say that there are actually two reference points. It is the price and the timing, the deadline for the construction. One depends on the other. And we have relevant indicators, the benchmarks in these reference points. It is we do the benchmarking with the shipyards of China and South Korea. They do have delays for the construction, but not that long delays that we have in this country at the Russian shipyards. It is important to understand that the price of a new ship should be justified, economically justified. Otherwise, the investors will not invest. They will not spend money on construction because a ship payback time is not shorter than 10 years. That's the timing indicated in the investment quotas. And I would like to draw your attention to the necessity to take into account the batch parameters for these ships because each ship is not a new project, but it is meant to be produced in batches. Unfortunately, the way I know, there are no regulations there are no definitions of what a batch is. How many is a batch? Is it 3 or 10 or is it more? So it's necessary to define what a batch is, to include it into regulations, and to take that into account when determining the price of construction and the top possible price. We realize that eventually there will be types of ships built at stage 2 that have been already constructed at stage 1. And that should be taken into account. The construction periods should be reduced, and the price criteria should be taken into account as well. There are concerns that expressed that the ships that were under construction at stage 1 will not receive an extension of their construction period. These risks do exist because initially there were no domestic equipment. It's not only propulsion systems or power systems, not only processing equipment. Let me give you an example. A unique thing, the trawl equipment. It sounds as it's something small, but one of the ship under construction needed this particular unique machine. It is a unique piece of equipment. There is no friction involved because there are electric magnets over there, because trawling nets weigh hundreds of tons, and trawling, which is the piece of equipment that is exposed to overloads. It is very important piece of equipment, but unfortunately the local manufacturers do not produce it. There are no similar equipment produced in this country. So, on one hand, the industry should take into account the commercial, the economics figures, but on the other hand, we should bear in mind that the construction period could be reduced provided the capacity of the shipyards are increased, and but money is needed investments into the shipyard infrastructure is required. And that's one of the measures that is being under discussed. And I would like to get back to one of the previous talks when the United Shipbuilding Company confirmed the previous order, and the members of our associations are prepared to further placement of the shipbuilding orders. And I would like to also draw your attention to the customers of for the shipbuilding industry. All the support measures provided have a limited nature. They are not applied to the ships that are in demand of the fishermen. That is, the ships for ocean. These are ocean-going seas, and mostly the focus is given to all the capex are given to small tonnage and mid-tonnage ships, and it is namely the subsidies for loans or credits, but the financial means are not sufficient, and the criteria are small tonnage ships, and what is demanded is the large tonnage ships, and there is no state support for that. Though the mechanism is available, it is beneficial and bonus subsidies for large tonnage ships, and this will be quite instrumental in addressing the issues we face and to reduce the interest rates for loans, and it would also address the delays in construction. These are the proposals. Thank you.
Alexei Igorovich, thank you very much for this share of optimism and positive things. And Dmitry, maybe you know which are the regulatory acts regulating the industry on the stage of negotiation and approval, and we know that there are certain problems, and we have to take into consideration some issues that should be taken into account during the implementation of the second round of the investment quarters. Well, all our lawmaking activities are quite public, and everything has been mentioned publicly, not on the margins of forums. And in the council, in the Federation Council, yesterday we discussed that, and up to 8:30 p.m. we were discussing the elaboration of the regulatory documentation, and this work has not stopped. It is ongoing, and of course some things do take up a lot of time. And if we talk specifically about lawmaking activities for the future, at the end of my report, I will put forward some proposals, because our session is dedicated to the technological sovereignty. I'd like to comment on the speeches of the previous speakers. Actually, it's quite unexpected, because unexpectedly, but I did like the frank reports from the United Shipbuilding Corporation, and what Alexei has mentioned, and the founder of their association. They're not quite empathetic. And so many projects that are being executed with many complicated technological solutions. And these people, as all fishermen, are quite courageous. As for the speech from United Shipbuilding Corporation, for the first time I did hear, from the point of view of lawmaking process, the law on the first quota mechanism, and the rhetoric from United Shipbuilding Corporation used to be that we can easily build everything and complete the construction with no problems. And now you have mentioned that you have lost some competencies. Thank you very much for being frank and honest with us. And it is quite difficult in terms of producing the plants and the necessary equipment on the territory of the Russian Federation. And talking about technological sovereignty, I'm, for example, speaking now into the microphone with the name Bosch on it, and talking about sovereignty, technological sovereignty. We should start with the hull and the building of the main part, because here we have lost a lot of competences, and the corporation, you have to analyze competences and expertise, and you will see that at the same plant you can have a military vessel. I will not give you the name of the type of it. And I've visited a lot of those manufacturing facilities, and very good metal, and then a new vessel for fishing purposes, and it looks quite outdated, that it has taken to sea many times. And what is the reason for that? The United Shipbuilding Corporation has been protected by the orders from the Ministry of Defense, and nobody was analyzing which materials were used in the process of construction. And high manganese steel has been primarily used because it is easy to work with it, and fishermen primarily used in Norwegian and Icelandic projects, and they used different types of metals. Foreigners count money in a different way, and they adopted a different approach, and they used less expensive types of steel. And in any project there, any node that has to be manufactured, there is an inscription that it is being manufactured in accordance with the competences of this specific shipyard or the manufacturer itself. So then, in the conversations with the directors of those plants, mentioned that, yes, it used to be like that with the welders and the stuff. And I asked them, what is the matter? They explained to me that the metal is different and it has to be welded in a different way. And it's not a secret, the problems we are facing in terms of the personnel at various levels. And for example, in St. Petersburg, half of taxi drivers are from Tajikistan, and many of them, they have been trained at some short courses, and then they go to work for plants because it is for them more profitable than working in a taxi. So talking about sovereignty, we have to start with the main part, with the small things, and then to learn how to do that for a larger scale. And in terms of the analysis, I think that here, when we analyze the economic part, that, for example, something has not been properly assessed and that the price is much more expensive, and when you analyze figures, you have to analyze the man hours and what used to be in 2017 and now, and you will see that now we have seen the increase 2.5 times and even 4 times. And of course, we are quite different from Turkey and from China. And there, the man hours are quite different from ours. And we are a very specific country in this regard. And this analysis should be objective. From the point of view of the register, it's good that they are trying to accommodate the needs for some vessels, some types of the vessels, and there are some indicators that exceed the norms and the standards, like for the new ships and some ships that have been operating for a long period of time. And sometimes we see the norms existing that of the vessel that has been taken to sea several times, and then it is a deeper level, and it's a movable type of vessel. And I have a request to you. It's a new thing. We are in the same boat, so to say, and some new rules will be introduced into the registers, but there are certain drawbacks and disadvantages that have to be taken into consideration. And when there is the acceptance of the vessel, we have to make sure that the norms and the standards are in line with the specific requirements, but nobody knows what this vessel will look like and how it will behave at sea in the future. And food producer can face what situations, and then the vessel can be accepted, but after the first passage, when it comes back to the port, they will have to substitute certain parts, and you have to continue this work due to objective reasons and objective circumstances, and you have to consider various options, not to consider every vessel specifically. You have to adopt a flexible approach. I wouldn't like to take up much of your time, but getting back to the lawmaking activities, I'd like to emphasize that you've mentioned some difficulties of the United Shipbuilding Corporation and Federal Agency for Fisheries, and register is also a difficulty. And of course, we all have more work to do, but we now tend to forget those who are in the same boat with us, those who will own these vessels in the future. It's about food, it's about fish producers, and in this story, they have actually suffered. And as for those who have won from this situation and who got profit, is the banking community. And thanks to this situation, due to this situation, they have taken out some loans, and it's not 1 month, it's not 1 year, it's several years that require additional banking guarantees and additional funding. And probably the Sberbank has taken some conscience, and I've seen some initiative that says that investors of the first stage can have the extension from 15 years to more years. Of course, this cannot be done, shouldn't be done right now, but when United Shipbuilding Corporation completes the analysis, and we will clearly see the expenses that have been incurred by fish producers in comparison with original agreements and how much funds the state has allocated. Then when we have those figures, we will go back to the fishermen, because they are active participants of the process. And if the figures demonstrated, then we will be able to extend the time frame for those investment quarters, so that these losses will not be so serious ones, because we are doing a great job for the country, renovating the fleet in comparison with what we used to have in the 1970s. And sorry for being harsh, Igor Dmitrievich, thank you. The time is limited, but I think we can spend 5 minutes for questions from the audience to our distinguished experts. We don't have any questions, so we are saving time for that. And now let's turn to the reports. In my report, I'd like to tell you about support measures that are being taken and requirements to the localization to the vessels in the framework of Investment 2.0. Please show my presentation on the screen. Do you hear me well?
Так, а кликер как работает? Он, похоже, не работает, коллеги.
So looks like the clicker doesn't work. Anyway, first of all, I would like to talk about the regulation measures when building ships in the industry. As we understand, the localization requirements apply to all the shipbuilding contracts, not only shipping vessels. The screen shows that all the procurements in accordance with the Federal Law 220 fall under 719 decree, and all the support measures that have been applied before do have the main KPI. It is providing subsidies. It is to meet Decree 719. We understand that if there are budget allocations to support the construction, then the developers will have to localize the products, but not just swapping the name tags for Chinese equipment. We have introduced amendments into Article 4, and there is a provision that ships for particular types of activity, and namely ice-breaking hydrotechnical equipment, coastal work should be built in accordance with Decree 719. As far as coastal voyage is concerned, in the near future, all these ships will fall under the brackets of Decree 719. I would like to show the requirements for localization applicable to investor quotas 2.0. There is a new decree 1283, and Decree 719 will be the main applicable law. For whatever the reason, the Ministry of Agriculture has written that the requirement for shipping vessels are fixed as of date of signing the investment agreement. However, the Decree 719 has a different date for fishing and for vessels and for crabbers. As far as crabbers are concerned, it is when the keel is laid. So there is a contradiction, a conflict in the laws and decrees, and I would like to suggest to make amendments into 1287, because 719 is applied to the whole of the industry, so and the bylaws should be changed, not the main law. And the second part of the challenge, it is on Decree 1191 instead of 1112, and 1283 for fishing vessels. Legally, the requirements of 719 are applied to the ships that have been put on keel as a part of the investment quotas. So nobody has been planning it that way, and because there are certain problems with the shortage of the onboard equipment, and so the whole process of completing the construction is in danger, and now we have new restrictions of 719. That's why changes in the applicable law are needed. And now talking about the requirements of Decree 719. There are certain scoring system that, depending on the equipment of the vessel, the scoring is done by confirming the technological processes and using the equipment and materials produced locally from the register, and I think it is necessary to do planning to meet the requirements of 719, starting from design and engineering, and then amassing the documents proving the scoring on each line. And at the request of the association, the Ministry of Industry and Trade made amendments to defer the bar of the scoring that the crabbers and fishing vessels need to receive, and they will have to score less points for objective reasons, because unfortunately we at the moment do not have the list of the onboard equipment that is produced locally, and that can add scoring points to meet the requirements of 719. So the difficulties associated with 719 do not only refer to fishing ships. That's what the statistics tell us. At the moment, there are some 260 ships under construction, and 126 certificates have been issued. So we realize that those requirements could be met, and in the future, as I have shown it on the first slide, 719 will be applied to the construction of all the ships. And what is most important, the manufacturers of the shipborne equipment have to understand that some 2,000 positions of the shipborne equipment that you can score with is not enough. There will be a higher demand for the equipment in the register, so it is a window of opportunities for you to promote your produce by scoring the required amount of points. Talking about the support measures from the Ministry of Industry and Trade. As you know, there is a new draft law regarding the development of the critical equipment. It is Decree 1864 and 62. It refers to different equipment. One is the general shipborne, and the other is fish catching and processing equipment. As far as fishing vessels are concerned, here is the list of the work performed in compliance with the new subsidies. Colleagues, please address the developers. They are interested in cooperating with the customers to have a batch of equipment which is at high demand in the market, and which could be installed on the type and size of the vessels. That's why the colleagues have assumed the risks, and the result of using the subsidies it is developing the required piece of equipment, because if they do not perform, they will have to pay the subsidy. So they have assumed the risks, and I suggest that you cooperate with the developers of the equipment, provide a helping hand to them. So talking about the domestic market of the shipborne equipment, there is a new measure. It is discount for customers to buy critical shipborne equipment. And the definition of critical shipborne equipment will be approved by the board of the industry, and the subsidies will be provided for the equipment that is deemed to be critical, the equipment that should be supported to enter the market. We obviously understand why this is done. The Russian manufacturers cannot compete with the with the colleagues from China, who have their own support measures and who have been producing the batch equipment for quite some time. So this particular measure is being discussed now, and the budget is some 2 billion rubles for the next 3 years. I think it's quite a good sum of money. And as soon as the measures materialize, do not hesitate to make use of those. I can advise you how to do that. Another support measure for the shipbuilding facilities in the Far East, its amounts between 1 and 3 billion rubles of compensating the expenses for the construction of civilian ships. There are some limitations, and it is not a blanket allocations, but it's a useful measure. Looks like clicker still doesn't work. Anyway, another useful, convenient measure for the ship owners of the fishing vessels. It is VAT of 0 to the ship repair facilities. And there is a decree that has been signed already to provide this particular support measure. Please make use of it. And to receive it, there should be an investor agreement with the Ministry of Industry and Trade for 7 years. And the amount of funds is prescribed, and the enterprise is supposed to invest into the refurbishment, into modernization of the facilities, and it receives VAT. It has to pay VAT of 0% instead. And information support is a web portal for the import substitution, and we have information about the capacity of the domestic manufacturers to supply on-board equipment. And the classification engine is very important, and there are 1,000 visits per day, and that's quite a good attendance. It means that this portal is high in demand. Make use of it. It is free of charge. And I would like to call upon the manufacturers to enter information about their products onto this portal, web portal. It is free for you as well. Here is the contact information. And please get in touch. We will give you support on how to make use the provisions of Decree 719. This is one of our tasks. We have staff who will give you a helping hand. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, do you have any questions to me? Dmitry Olegovich? Well, you know, I'd like to know the following. So in the confirmation of the accordance with the ruling 719, so what difficulties are you facing, the shipyards facing, in order to confirm that, the compliance? Because as I see it, for the spare parts and whether they are complying with the requirements and the compliance with the ruling 719, because normally we use different types of cables, different type of spare parts. Is it easy to understand which ones should be used? Yes, briefly I can give you an understanding of it. We are addressing a number of problems related to ruling 719, to confirm that. First of all, we understand that this equipment that is part of the register, we have a certificate as a confirmation for this equipment, and no problem here. But as for shipborne equipment and the system, it has been manufactured by a shipyard and then it is assembled on board the ship. And normally it is not a single manufacturer, and fitting pumps and the tubes are bought separately, and then they assemble it all together on board the ships. And to give all the points for this system, then we have to face the requirement and the new provision that says that all spare parts of the second and third level should be confirmed by specific certificates. And it is like a continuous matryoshka, various levels and levels of localization, and you have to give certain confirmation for each element. And with the colleagues from the Ministry of Industry and Trade, we are working on facilitating those processes and measures so that we can use such a measure as a confirmation of spare parts from second and third level, what we call primary documentation, the quality certificates and the certificate of origin. And the second difficulty that we have almost resolved as of today, it's the application of the requirements of ruling 719 as of the date when the shipbuilding contract is being signed. And we see it not as a point in time, the date of the signing of a contract. They say that we go back to the previous edition, like 1 year ago, but then taking into consideration the changes in that edition. For example, the points have increased this summer, and then they require 3,100 points for specific vessel, and that is what we dealt with yesterday when we wrote a letter there. And in parallel, we are introducing some changes and amendments to ruling 719, that the subsequent changes will not be taken into consideration, and the changes have been described in details in Order 52. You can address us, you can come to our center, or you can visit the portal that I have mentioned in my report. There they have the section dedicated to the procedures related to 719. At the initial stage of investment project execution, you have to take that into account, and not later, at later stages. You have to plan everything and then bring all of it together in the process of constructing the vessels. Dear colleagues, I hope there are no more questions because the time is very limited. So let's turn to the reports of the manufacturers of shipborne equipment. They will tell us more about their projects, and we will understand that it is not as bad as it seems, and we have some equipment to work with. Mr. Danila from Vyborgsky Machine Engineering Plant, he will deliver one of the most interesting reports to us. Well, the clicker has been taken away from us. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, and I wish all of you to stay healthy and be rational. And I'd like to start the reports by saying that we do understand problems that we are facing. I agree with that. And first of all, when I say that we need to be rational, we should not interfere with each other. Yes, we are executors of one of the projects from the trawling perspective, and the one that has been mentioned before. So we are localizing the trawling, and it includes 8 positions of the winches. They are not very complex, but they are in high demand. So these 8 types of winches will cater for all the needs of any trawling vessel and any dead weight. And it is an ordinary type of pulling a winch. I'd like to turn to the next slides. So we've carried out the patent analysis and surveys. We have taken part in it, and we decided to use Ibersisa as our basis. They have a number of advantages, reliability, and also they have very huge, extensive operational experience. And you can go there and see the equipment by ourselves. And we are located in Vyborg, and Vyborg Shipyard is our main venue, and we have all those units there. We can study there, and we can do the necessary design there as well. So, as of today, we are at the stage of completing the the terms of reference, and we will start with our design documentation and its elaboration. Here we see the scheme at which points we will locate our winches. If you're interested in that, we will give you some brochures, and it is quite easy. Each winch is at its designated place, and we've raised such problems as the confirmation and the certificate that we need to show, and we have experience of getting those certificates from T1, and I don't know what is actually easier, to manufacture a winch or to obtain such certificates, because we need to introduce certain amendments, and there is a lot of bureaucracy, and we need to find some solutions how to tackle this situation, this problem. So it's quite a problem. We spent 6 months on manufacturing and 8 months on getting the necessary certificate. And we have been applying this method here as well. I'd like to draw your attention to the following thing. Of course, it's understandable that the basis should be the viewpoints and the opinion of our consumers, our clients, our fishermen, and 80% comes from the center. And it is my personal opinion that it should not be accepted by the center, but by the fishermen. And of course, we are in close contact with many companies and enterprises, SSRK and Peppercar East. They are giving access to their vessels, and they're explaining and commenting on the trawling work, and the captain comes there with the team, and we are studying all the specific features and nuances that exist there, and to apply that in our experience. But the main criteria of acceptance should be put forward by fishermen and our equipment. So we show that to designers, but who actually buys it is a fisherman, and we are taking certain steps. Some of them have been successful, and some of them have not been so successful. And we are thinking about the future implementation and execution. But today, when you graduate from university and you are trying to find work, to find a job, and they say that you need more experience, but where can we take an experience when we have recently graduated? Yes, I will try to stick to the time limit. Of course, it's clear that nobody will just give us a vessel to try our equipment on. So we need a simulation process with the automated model. That is what we are doing. And we have certain stages in our program. Of course, we face such a difficulty as the lack and delay of funding. And of course, it makes it more difficult for us to continue this work. In general, it is not very difficult. The ordinary trawling equipment will be manufactured. Of course, we have to take into consideration all the specificity of the market, and the serial manufacturing, the serial production is the only way to do that. And we have never done that nationwide. It's like with a child when he's making his first steps and he will fall down. That is a normal thing that happens. But this is the first step that needs to be taken in order to continue. And I wish everyone good day. And on the margins, you can ask questions because we have only 5 minutes per report, and we have to continue. Mr. Pavel Zubkov, General Director from Maritime Complex Systems. This is the leading company in terms of executing fish processing equipment and freezing equipment. And the floor is yours, please.
Хотел сказать, что по позитиве действительно.
So despite the unprecedented sanctions that have been imposed, we got united, and we realized that we do not have that many friends. We should rely on ourselves. We should be self-reliant. So it's our second project. We localized the production, which was initially of the equipment, which was produced in the UK. So the ministry and the United Shipbuilding Corporation requested us to build some shipborne equipment, and we started the implementation of this project. The slide shows the shipborne shredders. It is a necessary element. It is to shred the bioresources and to shred bio-waste. This slide shows the technical specifications of the size and type that we have produced. The first line shows the shredder with the capacity of not less than 4,000 tons per hour, and the other 1,000 per hour, and the other is for the standalone shredder with a capacity of not less than 250 kilograms per hour. So there are provisions made to be installed at different types of corvettes, frigates, research ships, and ice breakers. Next project is the hoisting equipment for the fish products. The application is very wide, and it is designed to haulage of the products between the decks of a ship. Depending on the type of the capacity, the elevators are divided into two types. small and large capacity. The specifications are shown on the slides, and we also are developing the one for 4 tons and 3 tons for different types of vessels. So we are developing the hardware for the canning factory ships. We make use of Russian software and developed the canning factory for processing fish and crabs. The main specifications are shown at the slide. The volume is not of the processed product is not less than 5 tons per day. The main specifications of the medium size canning factory is shown over here, as well as the factory for processing fillet. So the applications of the equipment are crabbers, longliners, and trawlers. I would like to note that the equipment could be installed on onshore factories. There are companies that have left the Russian market, such as Optimar and Carso, and we are replacing the equipment produced by them. Another piece of equipment we are producing is fish meal equipment. It is essentially a factory that includes the assemblies and units to produce meal and oil. We have developed the size and types, which are composed of 5 different types: 30, 60, 90, and 120 and 250 tons per day. The capacity depends on many factors. It is the quality of the feed stock and also the percentage of the meal versus the incoming feed stock. The applications are trawlers. We have developed those factories, and they could be installed onshore as well. This is the reference list of the companies that have left the market, such as Amorphel and Harsleff. Another piece of equipment, it is the refrigerating equipment for RSW tanks. It is designed to refrigerate the water and maintain the level of 100 to 200 cubic meters, and temperature is 1-2 degrees, and the storage of the catch is one of the advanced techniques and technologies. The specifications of the equipment are presented at the slide. I would like to emphasize that the coolant that we use is ammonia, and it is one of the most efficient. Those RSW tanks are used on the following types of the equipment. Another piece of equipment are compressors and condensers. The sizes and types of the cooling equipment is between 50 and 200 kilowatts, and it addresses a number of the tasks to provide cold aboard ships. Here are the specifications, the dimensions, and the boiling temperature is -10 degrees. The main specifications of the low temperature compressor and condenser units are presented at this slide. Those refrigerating units are installed on crabbers, longliners, and trawlers. Here is the reference list of the companies that we replace: Everfloor, Technotherm, Johnson Controls, I would like to invite you to visit our stand, and our specialists and process engineers will give you details of our developments. I would like to emphasize that when we started the operations, I stated that we are sure that we would do that, and now we have done it. So there are many other things we can do jointly with our partners, with our suppliers, and the list of the suppliers has been approved by the Minister of Industry and Trade, and a number of the fishing companies are interacting with us. We are thankful to them, and many of these fishing companies invite us to visit their ships. We study how the equipment works in the field, and it is very important. And the ministry asks, how can we help me? And I would like to emphasize it with the ship owners that joint work is important. There is no time to mark a time. We should move forward together. By the end of 2024, we will start the batch production of our equipment, and so welcome to our yards and to our stand. We are prepared to show you everything. Thank you. Very interesting presentation. Colleagues, we only have 10 minutes. Just one question, if you please. It's great that you're doing these things. It's clear that there's no alternative. What about the cost? Would the ship owners manage to pay? Because if we produce ourselves, it might be 3 times more expensive. I can give you an example. We have bought some equipment, and we disassemble it, knock it down to make the reverse engineering, and one piece of the equipment is the price of 2 BMW, and on the face of it, what is it? It is just for heading the fish. The engineering solution is great, and we are looking at those equipment, and when we disassemble it, we realize that our competencies are sufficient to do the same thing. And of course, if we look at the European equipment, ours is more cheaper. If we look at the Chinese equipment, then they do not have the wide competencies, and I hope that ship owners will pay attention to our domestic market, and we will not be playing into the hands of the Chinese competitors. Okay, thank you, colleagues. I would like to give floor to another speaker, and it's about the shipborne equipment. It is the equipment on the ship bridges, automation, and the other thing. And he will talk about the instrument building cooperation and competencies.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm representing the Corporation of Maritime Instrument Engineering. It was established 2 years ago, and we brought together 4 plants and their expertise, like from ocean instrument engineering, and 3 others. And when the corporation was established, we analyzed the civil part of the process, what has been designed by those plants, and what they are planning for the future. And the goal has been set for the civil part of the maritime instrument engineering to be leading in all those niches that are represented on the slide. And today I will be talking primarily about 2 components that will be interesting at the Fishery Forum: the general shipborne navigation, radio navigation equipment that is applied not only at fish-producing vessels, but at all civil vessels, and also the equipment for the fisheries. So, as Egid Mitrovic has previously mentioned, we have a very frank conversation today. It's not a secret that the market of the civil instrument engineering, in terms of its leading position, foreign vendors are the ones who lead the process. And I'd like to say that today, if an obligatory composition of the equipment comprises 47 various devices and 17 units of equipment will be completed in 2023, and the remaining 14 types of equipment, here we plan to complete the design stage, and then we will start the serial manufacturing. It will happen next year. We have received subsidies, which Dmitry Olegovich mentioned, the state funding, and we hopefully will complete the design and the manufacturing, and that will be the first domestic-produced navigation equipment for the vessels in Russia. And you can visit Aurora stand, which is a joint stand with KMP. And I will not go deep into detail about the already existing equipment, like global maritime distress and safety systems and some other systems from the Aurora concern. And for several years, they have delivered their dynamic management systems and some sensors that have been manufactured. And according to ruling 1872, the fishing searching equipment, like locators, have been manufactured as well, the high-frequency locators. This is done in order to substitute the well-known Simroad and SU-79. And as for the price, we are guided by not being lower in price than the foreign equivalents, and taking into consideration the domestic basis, we are taking into consideration the subsidy of the compensation of 20%. In the first samples, this price will be a little higher, but then when we start the serial manufacturing, we hope that we will be able to optimize the costs and to reduce the price up to the necessary level. And according to ruling 1872, we are elaborating the system of controlling the trawling, including the characteristics of the trawling sonar FS90, well-known company Simroad. And it is implied that we will have horizontal and vertical hydrolocator and some additional elements for the horizontal scanning that will help the operator to measure the distance between the trawling planes and not to damage the trawling elements. And the system looks quite similar to the equivalent systems of controlling trawling from Simroad and some other foreign companies. And the policy of our cooperation of maritime instrument engineering in terms of manufacturing, the promotion of civil production is aimed at elaborating and working out comprehensive solutions for maritime instrument engineering, and we sincerely hope that it will help to ensure the technological sovereignty of the Russian Federation. Thank you very much, and thank you for sticking to the time limit, which is very important indeed. The next speaker will be Oleg Borisovich Shorokhov, Deputy General Director from Morsves Automatica, and you will continue the topic of the previous speaker, and the time limit is 5 minutes. Dear colleagues, for more than 20 years we have been designing and manufacturing equipment for fishing vessels, and we have a lot of remote controls and distribution management systems, and the electronic converters and ventilation systems and anti-corrosion units, emergency generators, furniture, doors, and some other elements of equipment. And electrical engines. We have also manufactured machines for fish production facilities, and we have specific laser welding equipment. The composite 3D printing is also one of our developments, and we are testing gas turbine of 800 kilowatts, and with our Chinese partners, we are also working on specific machines and devices. We are delivering that to various shipyards, and we participated in one of Moscow projects that was a milestone for our company. Together with our partners, we have achieved very good results, and as for the winch with the constant magnets, we can work on that, because with magnets we have been working a lot in our machines and electrical drives as well. We can also consider the re-engineering of some problematic components and elements, and we kindly invite you to visit our stand at Pavilion F.
Next speaker, Alexander Timofeyev, Nordbeck Marling Company. Good afternoon. My name is Alexander, and our company started operation in 2013. We started with repairing the equipment on board the ships. Then we moved to Baltic shipyards, and we kept working to upgrade the equipment and installing it. So over the period of 6 years, between 2013 and 2019, we got integrated into the program of renovation of the Russian fleet, and now we work at the shipyards of the United Shipbuilding Corporation for different customers, Ford Group and the others. And so the main thing I would like to say is as follows. Right now, we are focusing on the production of transportation lines and small size machines. What's the reason why we do not want to develop complex technological machines? And we believe that it will be necessary to do groundwork for some 5-10 years for the equipment to be reliable in the course of fishing. And the main issue which we face is whether the owners and operators of the ships are prepared to switch over to new pieces of equipment that they are using now, and whether they are ready to test the equipment that has just been developed. That's why in 2022 we opened the yard in St. Petersburg with the area of 1,000 square meters, and we produce lines and small machines. We plan to develop to create the sorting machines, but as far as complicated process equipment is concerned, we will be applying the scheme of parallel import. Our partners cooperating with us, we have 2 contracts signed for the orders 84 and 85, and in the near future we will sign 4 more contracts for the supply of the equipment. I would like to draw your attention to such an issue as applications software. We once faced the challenge that some of the customers do have the equipment, but there's no software, and it is not possible to operate the equipment when there's no software. And at the moment, we do have an experience of writing software for the refrigerating equipment of TMR company, and we are about to complete the project of Auto Trell for Ford Group, and we have re-engineered the software for Corsa equipment, and our customers can confirm it. And our best presentation is recommendations from our customers. So we would like to invite you to our stand as well, and we will give you the details of what we are capable of. Thank you. And the last but not the least, I would like to invite Mr. Kaptev, First Deputy and Commercial Director of Armalite Company. They have quite an important equipment that they are responsible for. It is reinforcement, fittings and fixtures of the onboard equipment. We have analyzed the market and the demand at the market for the ships to be under construction till 2035, and we concluded that 42% of the fittings will be required by the fishing fleet, and because of these sanctions, many suppliers have left the market, and there is a necessity to use the piping and tubing, drives and valves, the fixtures and fittings. And the government of the Russian Federation is undertaking efforts to develop the internal markets and providing incentives for the manufacturers. And within the framework of the Decree 1772, we have been implementing the program to develop the input substitution for the pipe lines and fittings. Armalite is the name of the company, and for 45 years it has been developing and servicing the fittings for the Russian Navy. And so when the foreign suppliers left the market, and there was a shortage, a vacuum that it was necessary to substitute. So we have developed the range of the equipment after receiving these subsidies from the state. This slide shows the different valves and fixtures, and it meets the requirement of the civil fleet. So we have expanded the sizes and types, supplying both the Russian Navy and the commercial fleet. As a result, we have the fittings that meet the traditions and the technical specificity of the Russian design and engineering standards. And we have the fittings that meet the requirements of Decree 719. Indeed, there are certain limitations related to low scoring points that could be acquired when building that kind of equipment, but there are certain measures that are undertaken to have a higher weight as far as scoring is concerned for the fittings. So we have to develop the independence from import, not just fittings and fixtures. That's why we have initiated the development of our own valves. It is similar to Vanessa and Swift, US and German, and together with the control cabinets, we introduce the smart management system at civil at commercial fleet. So let me skip some of the slides. We have analyzed the specificity of the operation of foreign suppliers at the Russian market, and we draw a conclusion to start comprehensive delivery of the equipment. And it is not just supplying individual pieces of equipment, but supplying systems and assemblies. And that's why we started supplying not only the products that we manufacture ourselves, but we supply the other pieces of equipment as a part of the system and assemblies. So the components are the equipment that we produce ourselves. Then we developed the smart equipment management system using the PLC and cabinets. And the third one, it is comprehensive deliveries, which includes additional equipment that make up systems. The slide shows a number of the projects that we can offer as part of the comprehensive supplies. It is the fittings, pipings, and shipborne pumps and compressors. Armalit company has got the manufacturing yards, and we can meet the requirements of the suppliers. We have full cycle production. It is casting and forging. It is the after-sales services at all the fleets, and we are members of a great number of the associations. That's in brief. Unfortunately, colleagues, I will have to conclude, and too bad we didn't have time for discussions, for Q&A, but I think we will be able to keep talking about those issues at the margins of the conference. It's good that we understand now what the qualifications of our companies is. I invite you all to Hall F. That's where the majority of the companies that have been taking part in the discussion today are located. Thank you for your dialogue. See you soon.